What's going on, guys? Uche and Joku, and fix that real quick. So just dropped off my kids with their mom and doing a little cleanup, pencils and swords and stickers all over the place. And yeah, I'll just say being a parent is amazing, hard but amazing. Being a father, I think, is even harder. Don't get me wrong. I respect what mothers do. I respect what their mother does. Not easy by any means. Being the nurturer, being the emotional stability for children. But as a father, it's hard in the sense that you are the protector. You are the provider of resources. At least that's what you're supposed to do. I know we live in a world where a lot of men shirk those responsibilities and prioritize self over their children, and that's something that is a constant issue, across society, in the community. I understand that, but I'll speak for myself that it's amazing for me to look at my children, my daughter, my son, and see all the possibilities of who they are, who they could become. I'm holding an orange pencil, and as I'm holding this pencil, there's a box of crayons and paint and markers and pencils, and I can tell you who this belongs to, or at least who pulled it out of the box. My son. Musa, favorite color is orange. He loves number blocks, and his favorite number is number 2, which is also orange. It's funny, we did, I don't know if you can see from this angle, but we did pumpkins the other day, and I bought some small pumpkins and some Sharpies, and we decorated it. And he put glasses on the orange pumpkin, and I was like, why does the pumpkin have orange glasses? Because the number block 2 wears glasses, and he's orange, like pumpkins are orange. So it's funny because that's how his brain processes the world, and he's very practical. This is how things are supposed to be. And it's funny, even when I joke with him and I play with him and I tell him something where I'm messing with him, I might say, hey, the sky is green. He look at me and say, Daddy, you are lying. You are lying. But the sky is blue. And it's a light blue. It's a sky blue. It's like a cyan, but not quite a cyan. Like, this is who he is. And then my daughter is just she's the analyst. She's processing, watching things, making sense of everything. And she will have these very deep conversations with me. And I see her brain working. I'm just like, man, this is incredible. That baby that was in my hands, when they were born, I was the first one to have them in my hand. And I'm like, here they are, 6 and 4.5, and they're brilliant. They're healthy. They're strong. And I'm just like, God, thank you. Thank you so much, because no matter how hard things have been, difficult, complicated, insane, this gift that was given to me, their mother, is meant to stabilize us, to give us a clear perspective of what life is and the responsibility of that. So I'm sitting here right now and I'm just like, filled with gratitude and love for my children. Like, this is something that's just amazing to me. After I dropped them off at with their mom, I went to Hudson Park, which is not too far from where I live here in New Rochelle in New York. And it's a waterfront. You get the view of the Long Island Sound. And I'm sitting there in their boats in the water. It's dusk, slowly getting dark, and there's people out there who are fishing, people playing music, and it's just a chill space, and I'm sitting there sipping on some club soda and I'm not club soda, seltzer water, some seltzer water, and I'm having a cigar. Just kind of like taking the time to just process, to calm the mind, and think about the week that's coming, the things that need to be done. This is going to be a very, very busy week, kind of hectic, but, you know, I'm sitting there thinking, and there's this person that has been mentioned so often in the videos that I'm watching that come pop into my feed. And she's a content creator. Her name is her 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 handle, her YouTube channel name is Dodash. And I'm sure I'm gonna look kind of crazy because everybody's been talking about her. But I finally today said, okay, let me see what she's talking about. And I she does very short videos, so I watched maybe about 3 or 4 of them. Maybe actually no, like 4 or 5, the length of a cigar in total. And she's there talking about her journey, her experience, and her pain, and her growth, and her faith, and her determination, and talking about how she had to get over caring what people thought about her, and how she chose to present herself to the world through YouTube, and people have been talking about how she got like almost 50,000 followers, or to 50,000 followers in a few weeks. Like she has been like a storm, and I thought to myself how the one thing that I really wanted to do with YouTube from the beginning was establish a legacy. And it's weird to say that because of it's YouTube. YouTube is social media and everything else. But a lot of people don't know that in college, I attended University of Rochester as a biomedical engineer major. And that was my major for up until beginning of junior year, when I realized I didn't want to do that. I did that because biomedical engineering was the combining, in the midst of my confusion, what I want to do in my life, combining of things that will please my parents, specifically my father. Medicine, biology, I was also pre-med, and then as well as engineering. So if I could be engineering and pre-med, I would be someone he's proud of. I'm someone that he would love more. And I did that. And there's a whole nother story to go into, and I'll make a video in more detail about that relationship. But I realized junior year, like, I did not enjoy anything having to do with pre-med or engineering. Not because I couldn't do it. I just I had nothing in me that said, this is your purpose, this is what you want to do. And so I switched over to film. It was film and media studies, but film. It was only because I had taken some courses for the art requirement in film, and I actually enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it because I'll tell you why I enjoyed it. I didn't realize at the moment, but later on it made sense. Coming to America when I did as a child, as this confused little African boy who hadn't really spent as much time in Africa, because we came from Saudi Arabia. My father was in school in Saudi Arabia, so I'd been in Saudi Arabia since my earliest memories. So, and then being in Saudi, I wasn't around other African children. I was around children from all around the world. My mother worked for the Nigerian embassy. My father was a student. So we were the children I was around were from everywhere. So I never really established my identity amongst other children as an African child. And my parents were these well-spoken professionals. My father was a student, but being a student in Saudi Arabia, was something that had him present in a certain way. My mother working for the Nigerian embassy meant that she was around people of high caliber and high class, and she presented in a certain way. So this is the world I grew up in. So I wasn't around other African children. I wasn't in the village. I wasn't outside like that. And if you times we visit Nigeria, I was also now the foreign child because I wasn't born and being raised in Africa. So coming to America and just being this confused child culturally, and now and being forced to now acclimate to Los Angeles, South Central LA, and America and everything that America is, which is a lot. TV became my way of making sense of American culture. TV became my way of learning how to speak and find my voice in a way that I wasn't just a foreign child. That's what TV became for me, and I watched a lot of movies. I watched a lot of movies. I mean, down to The Way I Spoke was practicing and trying to say certain things, and I developed a really good ear for American English. But not only that, I developed a very good ear for how to sound like I'm from the hood, and also how to sound like I was raised to be in the boardroom, and everything in between. And so watching these films and these classes and writing about them and not understanding directors and perspectives and intentions and then expanded to lighting and scripts and actors and why certain things were done a certain way was fascinating for me. And I kept on taking more and more classes until I realized, because again, would film have been my major of choice? Probably not. But it was a comfortable space for me. So I before I knew I had enough credits to graduate with a degree in film, and I learned a thing or two. Did I ever use that degree in film? No, I didn't. But I had a bachelor's degree, and in America, most jobs it requires a college degree, and I was able to make sense of film and media studies to go into marketing. So my first job was in marketing, in sales, and eventually things happened, and I found myself trying to find a job as a substitute teacher, and tripped into education. And almost 20 years later, 20 years later, here I am, an educator, a school principal, and all that. But I digress. But it's interesting how all those things kind of like put me into a place where when I discovered YouTube, what fascinated me about YouTube was not necessarily the content creation. As far as creating content, it was the process that fascinated me. The cameras, the technology, because it kind of made me feel like, especially at this point in time, I'm an educator, I'm a school leader, and I'm in a space where the job is there, but YouTube became kind of like a hobby, a place of interest. I was watching these videos about and about how normal people create amazing backgrounds and high quality videos. And I'm like, is this a production company? No, it's an individual. What are they using? They're using a DSLR, a regular camera. You take pictures that can do video, and they're able to get these amazing audio and scenes. And that's what caught me with YouTube. And I was like, I want to make videos. But then I was like, I don't know what to make videos about. So if you look at my earliest videos, I was talking about sneakers. And then because I'm a sneakerhead, I was talking about financial literacy and credit, because my credit was shit, and I was trying to fix it, and I was fixing it using YouTube. And I was like, hey, I could talk about my journey in that space. And then it just kept on proceeding. And if you watch my channel, I've kind of like gone left and right, up and down in circles. and it was almost like whatever the flavor of the day was is what I made content about. But the other thing too is I wasn't consistent, so I would make content for a hot second, days and weeks, sometimes months. Then I would vanish for months, a year or two. Then I would come back again. I was doing this back and forth, and and there were a lot of things happening, marriage and children and work and just a lot of things that life happens. But I'm watching Dodash and she's talking about like harnessing this space to make an impact, to help people, to not just create content that's based on hashtags and optimizing your what do you call it, SEO, optimization and thumbnails and what this should look like and how we need to make sure you're getting subscribers and followers. And she was like, help people, tell a story that could get somebody thinking about where they're at and help somebody who might be stuck see there's somebody else out there who's moving forward. And I thought to myself like, wow, that's crazy. Because the one thing that I've been very cautious of, and some people might say, oh, but you do put content out there that's helpful. Yes and no. Because I'm always trying to put content out there that I think that will get views, that I think might help me move forward as a brand. And honestly, she's right. That's not what it should be about. With 8 billion people on this planet, 300 million in this country, my country, Nigeria, 200 million people there, we're talking about people around the world are hurting. They're going through their stuff. And I know I'm hurting. I'm going through my stuff. I'm going through a separation right now, learning to be a parent, a co-parent in 2 different locations. My father just passed away. I'm good at what I do professionally, but I have a lot of doubt about if I'm doing what I should be doing, whether this is my purpose, this is what I should be doing. And then I have people who are telling me all day long, man, you're so good at what you do. You should be a superintendent. You should be this. You could be this, And people who are telling me, why are you doing content? Like, what are you doing? Like, this is not professional. Aren't you afraid about you might lose your job? And then people were telling me, what are you talking about, bro? Why do you sound like that? Oh, you're mad boring or like, who cares? And the trolls and all these different things. And it's funny because at the end of the day, I care too much about that. No matter how much I wanted to say I didn't care, I was doing what I was going to do, that every time I stopped creating content, it's because somebody said something to me that really messed with me, and I stepped back. I've been on YouTube since, I want to say really 2017 is when I started playing with it. 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 7 years. And I was monetized at one point in time. Then I forgot what I did. Being careless. I got demonetized. I got like strikes. I got demonetized. But I left it alone. And now I'm working towards being monetized again. I'm working towards taking this really seriously. And I'll tell you what my biggest fear is that something else is going to happen. And I'm going to be like, I'm not going to do this again. I'm going to step away and do it and find myself in that position where the momentum that I've developed goes back to zero. I'm saying this not because I need you to feel sorry for me and be like, man, or do a cautionary tale. I'm not doing that. I'm saying this because I want to validate everything, and she doesn't need my validation, but everything that Dodash says in her videos is very true. We are walking bodies of experiences, and we need to put it out there. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to put it out there. you know. But what I need to do, and what I think a lot of people need to do as well, is stop being so scared. Stop worrying about what everybody has to say, because guess what? Does it matter? I saw the man who probably had the biggest impact, not probably, he had the biggest impact on my life. It wasn't positive, but the outcomes ended up being positive. But my father had the biggest impact on my life. To me, he was a giant. Not only was he a giant, he was a giant monster. He was a giant monster. You know, my fears, my nightmares, my anxieties, my pain was all tied into this man. And please don't get me wrong. I'm not sitting here trying to shit on him or try talk bad about him. Because at the end of the day, I made my peace with him. He and I had our moment where we made peace. But peace doesn't mean you forget. I think forgetting is the worst thing you can do, because you forget, you stand to make the same mistakes. But I say this is that when I say about why does it matter what everybody has to say, I'll tell you why. I was speaking to my mother earlier this evening. I said to her that it's strange, but my father just passed away. His funeral was a couple of weeks ago. And I watched his coffin be put into the ground, being covered. And when that happened, I was like, the man who seemed like he would be here forever, the man who I believed had a hold on me, is no longer here. And I realize now it was all perception. It was a belief that was implanted in me by me. Maybe he planted the first seeds unknowingly, but I was the one who tended to that garden of thorns, that garden of poison ivy, poison oak, weeds that grew above my head, that made me believe that this was my reality forever. So what would happen is when people would say one little thing, it was like a seed being thrown into that garden. And another bush grew. So I felt like I had to move away from it. The reality is this. There was no garden. There was no poison oak. There was no poison ivy. There were no thorns. It was all in my mind. It was what I came to believe to be my reality. The truth of the matter is this: no matter what you're going through, brother, sister, whoever you are, it's all here. Because this is so temporary. At some point in time, this ceases to exist. And after you're gone, eventually, people stop talking about you. Eventually, those people who are left behind will go as well. 50, 100, 200 years later, no one will remember you. Unless you happen to be one of those people that does something so extraordinary that you are forever tied to that thing, nobody will remember you. How many millionaires, billionaires have lived who've passed on? Nobody remembers. How many great scientists, scholars have passed on? Nobody remembers. I'm not saying this to be morbid or to depress you. I'm saying this because I am motivated now, here and now, to live my best life. To create, to make something, even if it's going to be temporary, something that makes the now as enjoyable, as amazing as possible. Life doesn't have to be a 9 to 5 where you're just grinding and grinding and grinding and grinding, waiting for retirement. Absolutely not. Life doesn't have to be the stress of, oh, the bills are coming. How am I going to figure this out? My child needs dentures. I'm not dentures, braces and dentures. I hope my child doesn't need dentures, but needs braces. How am I going to figure it out? Like, why does it have to be like that? It doesn't. It's a choice. And the reality is, like, we live in a world right now where a lot of things have been decentralized, democratized. So you no longer have to be like, if I want to create something like I'm doing right now, I have to, have a camera, record content, and go beg the TV station to put it out there, or go beg the cable station, or what was it called? I remember community access television, where you could create something for a little fee you could put out there. You don't have to do that. Right now, you can just do it like literally from your phone. A lot of my videos that I post are literally me in the car with the phone position, and I'm just talking to the camera in the phone. And I'll be honest with you, the way the iPhone and Androids are getting now, you get that blurry background and it looks like it was recorded on, like I'm using right now, a Canon R, EOS R. Like, you can create the same things and then upload it for free. The problem people are consuming with, like I was, is, oh, I only got 2 views, 3 views, 5 views, and then you let that to be the source of your anxiety, and then you start thinking to yourself, maybe I'm horrible, and what am I doing? People are gonna laugh at me, and then you stop. But the reality, you don't have to stop. I've told myself this: if this is only for my children to be able to see me years from now, my grandkids years from now, hoping that YouTube will be around as long as possible, and this library of content from around the world is always going to be there, I'm excited about my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren typing in the sneaker principle, Uche and Joko, and seeing granddad talking, because I can't do that to see my father. I can't do that to see my grandfather. I can't do that to see anyone of that generation. But I can create this for the next generation, and that's something that's dope, something that's amazing. Do I fantasize that this can become something more that can yield me an income that allows me to step away from what I do professionally and be able to be in a space where I create and be able to sustain myself and my children and their education and everything into the future? Yes, I do. I've never admitted that before, but yes, I do. And if you're thinking it, you should admit it too. Because there are people around the world, children to elders across countries and different languages, Africa, Asia, who have embraced this and said, listen, all I need is 1% of 1% of 1% of the population of the earth to see this. And that 1%, that 1%, 1%, 1%, 1% can be 100 people who are just there every day to watch. But 100 people can now say, hey, I'm going to share. I'm going to tell other people about this person that I'm watching that inspires me. And that can turn into 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 100,000, 1,000,000 people easily. But that shouldn't be why you're doing it. You should be doing it with the thought and belief that somehow, some way, there's a possibility that 1,000,000 people might say, hey, I know her, I know him. And what they're saying impacts me so much that I keep watching, I keep learning, and I'm growing because of them. I'm an educator. That's where I fell into. And now I'm an educator who happens to lead schools. And this is what I do. And I want to treat this space like my own private school. And potentially tens, maybe hundreds, maybe thousands of potential students. Because my life has been a life that has been very interesting. Been through it all. I've learned a lot that I know can help. All right. So I reached the maximum record time on this camera, and so I had to go back and push play again. Then this is actually my second take of part two, because I realized as I was wrapping up the video that I didn't plug my mic back in to the camera. So right now, yeah, this portion, that last portion had no audio, or probably bad audio, but I'll see. But in that case, I'm just going to say this to wrap this video up, because it's time for me to wrap it up. It's way too long. This space for me is really, like I was saying, my school. I'm using YouTube as my school. I'm using YouTube to do what I wish I could do in a professional setting, working for New York City schools, which I can't do because I'm a principal and there are rules I have to follow. But in this space, this could be my alter ego as a school leader that gets to be a principal, be a teacher on an open campus that's decentralized, democratized, allowing me to do the things I wish I can do. You know, speak from the heart, speak my truth, speak my experiences, and pour into just one person who's watching this who's like, I need to hear that. I'll be honest with you, my content moving forward, even if you look at the body of my work, hasn't had a niche because I don't want a niche. I don't want. I tried it. I won't lie. I tried. I tried to say, okay, I'm going to be about this. I'm going to be about that. I consider start other channels. I did start other channels that I never posted on, because I was like, it feels weird for me to now say I'm going to now create new content in this space. Like I'm going to erase my identity by becoming something else somewhere else that I think will please the masses. But the reality, that's not the purpose. The purpose is for me to just be me. The purpose for me is to have everything exist in a space where it's almost like my own library. Like, it's like my own presidential library. You get to see all my letters, all my notes, in this case, it's all my videos, all the random stuff I've talked about, the things that made sense, the things that didn't make sense, the things that were kind of embarrassing. I have videos I've deleted that I wish I hadn't deleted that were very important because they were all part of my story and my journey. But I deleted them because I felt like, oh my God, I probably shouldn't have posted that. And now that I look back and I'm like, what were you talking about? Those are the things that some of the strongest, the most impactful things, but I was afraid and ashamed, because so often we don't want people to talk about us. But I'm not doing that anymore. So you're going to see me in this space continue to speak my truth. Earlier today, I posted content about me making breakfast and negotiating my kids about going to the park, and them wanting their ring pops and me being like, no, you don't get to have your ring pops right now. But again, those are things that I'm sure a parent out there is going to watch that and be like, oh, I know what I'm seeing right there because I've gone through it. Or there might be a parent who might see that video and say, huh, that's interesting. He asked his 6 and 4.5-year-old to negotiate, with each other. Are we going to go to the park? Or are we going to have our ring pops? Which one are we going to do? But these are the things that I think are very important. Dodash, thank you so much for being a truth teller and forcing us to really look at ourselves and say, hey, how are we presenting fearlessly in our most authentic selves, whether we're struggling or whether we're succeeding, whatever we're going through, because somebody out there, not even somebody, a lot of people out there are going through it, but they don't have a voice. And a lot of them have a voice, but they're too afraid and they need somebody to say it's okay to speak your truth. And that is the work that I want to do. That's the work I want to do. And if it leads to 1 million followers, wonderful. If it doesn't, it's okay, because at least this will be like my presidential library. My kids, my grandkids, my great-grandkids, hopefully as long as YouTube is in existence, will have access to this content. And I also have hard drives. Hopefully computers will still be around. They could plug it in and see, hey, that's our dad. That's grandpa. That's great-grandpa. While he was still, looking good and brolic and, has all his faculties. Like, I want that for them. And yeah, so thank you so much for indulging me in this very long video. But again, I had a lot to say. I have so much more to say, but I let the Spirit move me this evening. And next time, we'll get into more stuff. Uche Njoku, the Sneaker Principal. Till next time, have an amazing rest of your day. Be well.